Look at this man. For sure, he is the number one hooker pick this year. Grant's down, Cook's a bit down, Watson's down, and his worst score in the last 6 weeks is 58. Unfortunately, he has one little problem, and that is he does not play round 15 and he does not play round 18. So for your fantasy team, you probably need somebody else for those major buy rounds. There's a couple of options floating around. Loads of people have Jazz, who plays 15 and 18, misses 19 and 16, I think. But that's all right. And there's Damien Cook's come up with some good scores in some injury affected games. You've got a couple of cash down options potentially, like Iowelu, the new Titans hooker, but there's just so many options. What the heck do you actually do? Jazz is benched. Cook is it injuries. Iowelu will even have this. There's so much going on that it's worth doing a whole episode pretty much just about hookers to let you know what my thoughts are on the process and how it might work for your team. High trades, low trades, high team value, all that type of stuff. First of all, we'll do a quick round review of what I did. Unfortunately, although I managed to get Kai Pearce-Paul's nice 65 looped in with White, that meant that I sold Kiraz. Rest in peace, Scoop's team. Jaden Campbell and Kiraz both named the week after Scoop sold after holding for a couple. But yeah, anyway, that meant I couldn't loop Kautonga or Sharp or Nawa or anybody like that. Dodged barely anything after that good initial one. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Didn't lose too many ranks, so went back to about where I was the week before that. So not too bad. But you might notice a little thing called Scoop has 16 trades, and now Scoop does not have 16 trades because it's send it season. Teams with a lot of trades, I think, can afford to go for somebody like a Cook because it's not going to hurt you terribly if Cook does flop, and he'll still score you 40s or about 40 over those 2 weeks, and then you can upgrade him later. So that's my general overall theory for high trades. But what if you want Cook and you have Jazz because you're worried about Jazz? What if you don't have enough money? What if is basically the scenario. For me, the what if doesn't matter too much because I can pivot. Next week I'll get Couchman, Teddy, and probably Ainu on the buy, maybe. And I will see how we go with that. Lawson is very interesting because he is risky, but he enables the purchase of some of these guns because, well, he's a legitimate cash out option and he'll hold the spot for a couple of weeks. And even if he goes away, you probably put a lot more money into your team. So let's actually look at this hooker logic, hooker guns, etc. So if you have Jazz, let's actually have a look at these team lists very quickly. For the Seagulls, you have Lachlan Croker and Jake Simpkin in the team. Jazz is not going to play hooker unless there is a last second swap. Jazz is not playing hooker. That could be really good because it means he's now basically their big minute middle along with Gerbo. Not great that he's not starting though. However, it could, because Gerbo's starting and they've got two hookers, it might just mean he goes back to 40 minutes or 35 and just not be a good scorer. If that is the case, pretty easy pivot to Cook. If you have the ability to do that and not be very tight for like 20, 30K, potentially saving a trade. So Jazz is probably wait and see for all owners. If you have high trades, you can jump on Cook, I guess, but I would really prefer just waiting a second. Damien Cook, though, let's have a look at these Dragons. So he's starting. Little is on the bench as usual. We have Couchman at edge again. Now Couchman played the whole game at edge, essentially because Sua got injured. And this week we have Leilua in the edge position. There's no Dylan Egan out for the year with ACL. And I think this sort of keeps Couchman in a big minute role, but also means this edge may not be quite full. And they might push some middle guys in there. Jacob Little to lock, and Damien Cook gets 65, 70 minutes instead of 55 minutes. That could be good for him. But that's a lot of yes, no, maybes about it. So I can understand not wanting to. Let's look at the other option. What's his name? Sean Mullany. So he's there, but the thing that sets alarm bells off for me for both Randall and Mullany is this bloke is finally about to be fit. He's finally about to be back from that ankle complaint, and I'd say he's served his time and will come back in, and that spells pretty bad news. Verrills is only out for 3 weeks with a broken thumb as well, so not that much actually appealing for him. He's an option, but I prefer Iowelu, and Iowelu is still not great. That's enough hooker speculation. Let's go into them now. So, if you don't have Jazz, like me, there's not many good hookers for the buyers at all. Cook's basically the last man left standing that looks any good. And so it probably will benefit you if you jump on early and get those scores and good points, as long as he's going to be okay. But if he's bad, it's only really an issue if you're quite low trades and you need to waste one and getting him back out. I think that 1 week and copping 30, 40k price rise difference is that Lawson is only so Iowelu, Mulaney, I only like them if Lawson you're worried about him holding a spot and you wait a week on him and he does flop. Then you will need a cash down in order to do certain things. And if Lawson and Cook and Jazz all flop, Booker's toast. Booker's toast through Origin, and Uelu will be not like that close, but he'll be a lot closer than he would have been to a 50, 55 point Cook, getting, I'd say, about 30 points in those buy rounds. It is a dead spot in your team, though, which is why he's definitely bottom of my list, and probably only for very specific scenarios when everybody else just falls over. Now, let's think about how this is going to work. If you've gone, Scoop, that's too many words, well, I've got a document for you. I've got a timeline. Jazz good equals keep Jazz. Super easy. If Jazz not good, but Jobo plays Origin, Jazz will be really good in round 15 and round 18. You keep him and sell him in round 19. Get close to as many points. I've given him this little boost here compared to his 40 to 45 points because of the potential of Jobo Origin for this one. But yeah, that's why that upside is there. If Jobo is non-Origin and his role is bad, just get Cook. Just get Cook round 15 and take that 20k loss and use it to say that you basically confirmed that you saved a trade. Yeah, you'll be a little bit behind compared to some, but losing a tiny bit there compared to losing a lot from having a dud trade is pretty handy, especially if you low trades. But if everybody's bad, Cook bad, Jobo bad, Jobo non-Origin, you can still probably keep him because Cook flopping isn't as important for Jazz to go good. And then you're not going to lose out so much and you can keep him for that week, sell straight away to more guns, and then buy a good round 18 hooker. So that's the only time where it starts to get a little bit different and interesting. For these round 18 hookers, you've got Storm, you won't because Grant. Dragons, it's Cook. Warriors, you've got Wade Egan back. Is that right? No, that's not right. I was clicking on the wrong round. Bulldogs, Reed Marnie. Bit dodgy with the situation around him potentially being pushed out or not as in favour. The Cowboys, it's Reece Robson, except it's not because likely origin, and Carl Lawton's not a cash down. Seagulls, it's Jazz, and the other two splitting it aren't super appealing. There's Iowelu again, popping up, not McConnell Watson. Coruscant becomes a okay round 18 hooker, especially if he's playing 80 minutes these days. Quite interesting. Rabbitohs back to Marmazilis, I guess, but he's kind of, I mean, probably not quite a keeper, and he's made all his money, so not a lot of point. This one could be interesting. If by round 18 we have Blake Moser, or we have Ben Hunt at hooker, that could be interesting to look at. And then Raiders, you could just buy Tom Starling. You could just buy Tom Starling. So that could be probably either Marnie or Starling, and maybe Ben Hunt are those sort of options you can go for in that round 18 and get a pretty solid hooker to pair with Aaron Clark for that run home. So that's fine. And that's how that'd work. If you've got a lot of trades like me, and it's not the end of the world if Cook dies, check if he's good. Well, don't check if he's good, just buy. And if he's good, jumped on early, best results, and you had high trades. So, like, you live in the dream. If Cook is not so good, yeah, it sucks a bit, but he's still scoring comparable to Jazz in those rounds. Jazz may be slightly worse. Jazz may be a bit better, but he's good enough that you. I mean, who else is there? Who else are you going to buy for round 15, round 18? Nobody. So you keep him essentially. And then in round 19 on the buy, you sell with that to the best hooker, because round 19, everybody's starting to come back. So the only ones you can't go for are, well, Jazz, Cook, and Mumzella, so it doesn't matter. You can go for Max Plath. I wouldn't go for Max Plath in round 15, considering he's in emergencies this week, and it's a lot of money. It just doesn't tickle my fancy. That's why I haven't included him. But yeah, you've got Connor Watson in round 19, potentially. Not many minutes backing up from Origin. You've got Wade Egan, maybe. You've got Harry Grant, if he's decided that he can score points now, and that type of stuff. So round 19, you might be able to get that hooker full Cook if you really need to, or wait another week and do it later. But the last situation I wanted to talk about is if you are low trades and you don't have Jazz, then I think you really should just wait. Instead of going, oh, he's good or bad, you wait and you buy if he's good. And then you're home and hose. Don't have to think about hooker again. If he is not, and your low trades, then you have to make some decisions. If you have low trades and low team value, you probably do not want one of those dud guys, because you want depth in order to get through that end period as best as you can. Iowelu, Sean Mullaney, get you a score or two here, but what are they going to do? They're going to turn into a red dot or somebody who scores 10, 15 points a week, not somebody you actually actively target in that team, and a spot that is no longer making money if you're a low value, have a low value team. Let's just say low 13 millions. I would call still wanting to make a decent amount of money and getting on a few cash cows. Iowelu and Mullaney are not really cash cows. They're kind of, I'd expect them to turn out like King Togia, who sort of stumbled his way to 70k price rises and is sort of not sure what he's going to do next. If you do have a good team value, and you've got a lot of guns, I think you might be able to go for one of these guys. If Lawson's no good, if Cook's no good, if Jazz is no good, then that's the situation where it works, I think. I think you can get away with a Sean Mullaney this week as a cash out, getting a really good score, but it's really early. So I'd probably only do it if everybody has really, really stunk it up and you have confirmed that Lawson gets dropped is no good or something like that. So this is the last resort, but it can work if everything else falls over. It's available. It needs to be mentioned, but probably not ideal. In conclusion, Jazz owners have it made. You've got every scenario covered basically, and there's very few where Jazz loses out over these other options, or at least loses out significantly because you can pivot depending on what you know about him. If you're high trades, Cook is good. Get him. Get that 20, 30K price rise that he'll get this week. And if he's a good scorer, done for the year. Clark and Cook, just leave it. If he's bad, well, he's still better than most. And you hold him until you get that final other hooker in round 19 or 20, like Plath or Grant or somebody like that. So it seems complicated. There's a lot of scenarios, but they boil down to only a few options, which is really, really handy. And why I'm actually so high on Damien Cook this week. It took me a bit to be convinced because he has those injury affected games, and I'm still not convinced that he's going to do that well. I think he's going to do well enough that I'll be happy with him in those buy rounds as a non-Jazz owner. And that's all I can ask. That's all I can ask at this point. So, yeah, guys, if I talked about what your scenario is with your team and what you're worried about, it's like, oh, I've got Jazz, but I think he's going to go really bad this week, and I haven't got enough trades to try and jump on Cook. You just wait. You hold off and see if Cook is actually going to be good or not, and then you do it so you don't waste a trade. If you've got a lot and you're worried about Jazz, well, you can. I prefer not to, but you can. And if you've got high trades and no Jazz, you just get Cook and see how it goes. So hopefully this was helpful, guys. Happy buy planning, but don't get too panicked about hooker because basically it's Jazz and Cook. Jazz and Cook all the way. Lawson helps out for that cash down stuff so that you don't need Iwelu as much. But if everything does fall over, you can get one of those guys as a last resort. So scoop out. I am absolutely sending it this week. As you can see, I'm hoping for a good one this week, setting up a double loop with Lawson, Tamale, and Hosking and Munster. Munster versus Cows. Hopefully can go big before I sell him in round 15 to Teddy. So until next week, guys, scoop out.